call the Cocalico Township Supervisor meeting for November 5th to order. Please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones. Also, looking this way, to the left, there's a sign-in sheet. So if you haven't signed in when you came in, please sign in when you leave. Okay. This meeting was advertised in Depth Review August 12th. So, okay, Tom?
First item on the agenda is a resolution to expand the urban growth boundary. I'll note for the record that this hearing was advertised on October 16, October 23, 2020. For this hearing, the East Cocalico Township Planning Commission reviewed this proposal and recommended approval. In addition, on October 14, 2020, the Lines County Planning Commission reviewed this proposed petition and resolution. At this point in time, I'm going to turn this proceeding over to Jason Hassett Morgan, Aldrin, Croswell, and Kane, who represents the petitioner and this concept.
Thank you. Goodman, members of the board, I represent Roy Zimmerman and the owners of the Grable property. And I don't know how much background you need. You probably know as much as I do. I just got involved in this portion of it, but other members of my firm have represented Grable and Zimmerman for a rezoning that was done. I believe that was done in early 2019. Portions of, I guess, Mr. Zimmerman's property, I guess to the east of the railroad tracks, was rezoned to light industrial, and to the west was to traditional residential. And then the Grable property was rezoned to light industrial as well. And at some point, I guess a request was made to connect to the sewer and water, and this board had suggested that the urban growth boundary should be changed to include these properties before that happens. So we drafted the petition, and it clearly makes sense to change this to these properties to be included. There's urban growth boundary. There's urban growth boundary to the south and then to the north, and this would just bring it in line with how the properties are zoned. Other than that, if you have any questions.
Any questions, Rusty?
No, I have not.
Is there anyone in attendance who has any questions for this application and this presentation? Note for the record, we received no response.
Okay. The motion be to adopt resolution 2020-10, authorize the amendment of the East Cocalico Township Comprehensive Plan by expanding the urban growth boundaries to include certain tracts of land not currently included within the growth area. Spam. I apologize. I'll turn this stupid thing off.
So you're looking for a motion then? I will make that motion.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Want to walk record and sign that, or are you going to do that later?
We might as well do it now, so we can.
Yeah, you can take it with you. That way you don't have to sit there all night.
Next time we'll have to put the picture of
That's set up, yeah, for you to sign the secretary.
That's how I
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That only needs Jeff and Alan, right? It only needs two.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Second item on the agenda is the forestry uses amendment. And this hearing was advertised in the Lynch newspapers on October 15, October 22, 2020. We have received comments from the Lynch County Planning Commission, and I know that it has been before the East Cocalico Township Planning Commission. It basically deletes the present section 220-58 of the zoning ordinance and then creates a new section. And the important part is that this ordinance, proposed ordinance, meets the requirements of the Attorney General's office. And this started because we had a complaint that our ordinance did not meet the parameters of the acre law. This one does. It's been reviewed by the Attorney General's office and is in compliance with their requirements. Ken McCrae's in the back and knows quite a bit about this ordinance. And worked with the Attorney General's office in creating it, and has also had discussions with the County Planning Commission with respect to this ordinance. My understanding is the county would like us to amend this ordinance at some time in the future, but the reason we're doing this now is we're in compliance with that act. We can amend it. If county thinks they have something better, I have no objection to amending it in the future. Ken, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, basically what the County Planning Commission said is that they didn't have any particular problems with it, but that they thought there could be additional protections for sensitive environments, riparian buffers and things like that, potentially added to it that aren't in the ordinance as we're presenting it. And the decision was made that we should go ahead and adopt this, but that there's going to be kind of a committee formed, including Planning Commission and potentially other environmental organizations within the county, to look at additional changes that could be put into the ordinance that would give us stronger environmental protections, but still be within the acre law and compliant to that. And so rather than delay the process, it was decided that we should go ahead and adopt this, and if a better version is arrived at a later date, we can go ahead and adopt those changes too.
Is there anyone in attendance that has any questions on this particular ordinance? No direct, do you? No comments? Okay.
Motion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This clears up some problems from the past.
Yeah. Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-01, amending the East Cocalico zoning ordinance, section 220-58, forestry use. I'll make that motion.
Go ahead. I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Who wants to sign that? All three of us.
Yeah, that will.
pass one of those to Penny. Yeah,
I'll pass this one.
Okay.
Jeff, that one's signed.
Okay, well, good, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tom.
So kind of one of this.
Okay, you're fine. Okay, moving on, past meeting minutes, first one be motion to approve the Thursday, October 15th Board of Supervisors meeting minutes as presented. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay,
I don't have any either.
okay, I'll make a motion that be approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. The next is motion to approve the Thursday, October 22nd, 2020 Board of Supervisors budget meeting minutes as presented. Are there any additions or corrections to them? Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Who was the
Thank
first
you.
and second on that, please?
I was the first.
You were the first and the second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We were moving too fast.
You were.
Okay, land planning, Brent.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First item on the agenda is related to the Wabash Landing Phase 2 final plan. As been previously reported to you, that phase, the second phase of the project is being reviewed by the township as we speak. Becker has issued a review letter to the applicant. Applicant is also working to submit highway occupancy permit plans to PennDOT to obtain authorization for the access onto Stevens Road. So phase 2 approvals are proceeding. One of the remaining items associated with phase 2 was to deal with the sewage facilities planning module. The applicant has submitted the necessary DEP sewage facility postcard exemption with associated supporting documentation, primarily capacity letters from the East Cocalico Township Authority and effort of the borough relative to sewage conveyance and treatment. So the motion and the action for tonight is simply to authorize signature of that document so it can be submitted to DEP for review. So unless there's any other larger project questions, the suggested motion would be to authorize a representative of the Board of Supervisors to sign Section 8D of the DEP sewage facilities postcard exemption for public sewage service related to the Wabash Landing Phase 2 final subdivision and land development plan.
Anybody here representing that client? No. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next project is a stormwater management plan, and there's a typo in the engineer's reports on handing this as the review letter for reference. It's a relatively minor type project, similar to some other recent ones. It's a single-family dwelling construction with related improvements, driveway turnaround, and other miscellaneous accessory uses. Located along 9 Whitetail Drive. The applicant's consultant submitted the plan. The plan has been reviewed, and most recently a review letter was issued October 14th, 2020, which is the one I just handed to you there. It may have been in your packet before, but as part of the project, there's 2 waivers requested. Both are fairly incidental. One was related to locating perimeter survey features beyond the limits of the property, 200 feet, and we support that waiver modification approval based on the scope of the project, and adequate information has already been provided relative to the project to review the proposed features. And then the second waiver modification is related to a proposed inlet with two inlets actually on the project that are collecting small amounts of driveway area. And in lieu of using a 2x4 PennDOT inlet, they're using a smaller 2x2 inlet structure, which we concur with based on the nature of the project, nature of the area collected. So unless there's any other questions relative to the project, I'll go through the motions related to those waivers and typical motions associated with conditionally approving the project and confirming the
Nobody
security.
here.
I do not expect them to hear. I had contact with the consultant and he had
Okay.
another meeting conflict. So the type, instead of the motions noted in the engineer's report, I've highlighted the ones on the stormwater review, page 1. So the first would be a motion to approve a waiver modification of section 185-14B4 related to showing all physical features within 200 feet of the development site.
Okay, yes, I will make that motion.
I'll second that motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a waiver modification of section 185-27A2 related to the requirement for inlets to conform to the requirements of PennDOT standards for roadway construction publication number 72M.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
it.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next motion would be to conditionally approve the stormwater management plan for 9 Whitetail Drive, conditioned upon the applicant addressing all items outlined in the Becker Engineering review email dated October 14, 2019, to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer, township engineer, and township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a motion to acknowledge the required amount of financial security to be established for the township for the stormwater management plan for 9 Whitetail Drive in the amount of $38,033. Further approved opinion of probable cost prepared by Harbor Engineering, Inc., dated October 17, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion is motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the improvement guarantee agreement for the stormwater management plan for 9 Whitetail Drive, when signed by the applicant, provided in a form acceptable to the township and the township solicitor, along with the required financial security in a form acceptable to the township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next is a motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the stormwater management easement agreement related to the stormwater management plan for 9 Whitetail Drive, when executed by the applicant, submitted to the township in a form acceptable to the township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank
And
you.
then the final motion is a motion to authorize signature of the stormwater management plan for 9 Whitetail Drive by the Board of Supervisors upon the applicant adequately resolving all conditions of plan approval to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer, township engineer, and township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
I also had an item on the agenda identified for the Wright Stormwater Management Plan, and that's more or less just an update for the board and documented in the minutes. And the applicant had requested to switch the form of security. Previously, they had provided a letter of credit and were doing some other financing and had requested to switch that form out for a cash escrow. So upon the township confirming the establishment of the cash escrow, the financial security prior in the form of a letter of credit will be returned to the bank. And that's been discussed with Tom and the township staff, so that's just an update.
Any questions, Mr. Lee? Thank you. Transportation Engineer, John Scheck.
Good evening.
Good evening. 272 on Church Street.
Yes, good evening. Again, a couple months ago, Penny asked if I would be able to attend a meeting with you folks, and I've had some conflicts over the past couple months, and tonight was a free night to attend. I understand just the purpose was to have some discussion on the intersection. I can bring up to date what we've done in the past on the intersection. We've done some analysis, we've done some design, there was a grant applied for, and kind of where we are, so I'm kind of here to answer questions for you, or anything you have for me, or I can go through what we did in the past to give you a little update from that, if that's okay, or? Okay. Back in 2017, in October, we were authorized to perform a study of the intersection, basically to make a determination of what transportation-related improvements would be required at the intersection, taking not 20 years. It's kind of started just for the fact that when, I guess, the intersection, you wanted to put emergency preemption at the intersection was the first step. So as the emergency preemption went in, it was discussed, what else do we need to do? And we discussed with PennDOT that to do some of the changes with phasings out there, to put left turn phases out there, we had to go out and do this analysis to determine what we could do under existing conditions and where the project went. Again, it went out, we did balance out the intersection, we studied the morning peak, the afternoon peak. This is back in 2017. Again, as you're well aware, the intersection is a failing operating level service, both in the morning and the afternoon. The westbound approaches, again, have significant delays. Lack of turn lanes, lack of arrows out there. It's pretty old signal installation out there. We came up with a list of improvements. There's a plan up on the monitor up there. I believe it was probably in your packets. Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, unfortunately,
It was a large plan, so it was kind of scaled out there. But basically what we did is we went through to determine what improvements would be needed out there. And as 272 basically runs southwest to northeast, it's the diagonal, and then the opposite is Church Street. And we went through it again, you can see that there's, the need would be for a northbound right turn lane, a southbound right turn lane. East and west, it would require separate left turn lanes, dedicated left turn lanes. Where the eastbound movement currently is a left through movement with a dedicated right turn lane. So going eastbound, you'd have to have 3 lanes, a left turn, a through lane, and a right turn. That plan pretty much identifies what the needs of the intersection would be, taken out to, I believe it was 2037 is what we looked at. So we took our traffic, we grew it based on the PennDOT growth rate out to 2037 to determine what the impacts are. Again, the intersection would require, new traffic signal. It's showing mass horns. The whole 10 yards basically with detection, radar detections, everything. We put together a cost opinion that went along with the grant application. I believe the township manager at the time submitted this for a Green Light Go grant application. I understand that was not approved from the state. So basically we have a design of an intersection here. We run the analysis, and it's kind of sitting there on the shelf here for a couple of years. In the meantime, the preemption equipment was installed at the intersection. There was some additional controller improvements needed at the intersection in order to facilitate the preemption equipment. Again, it was a pretty old intersection out there. We looked even at some interim improvements, what we could do to put on the left turn phase out there, or other types of options under the existing. And what you got into was, because the intersection is so old and the way the configuration is with 8-inch signals on the side poles, not the hand-man signals, that when you start introducing these left turn phases, you basically have to rework the whole intersection to update it. So you got to a point where you got to update all the signal heads, you got to update, so you're doing a wholesale update of the intersection, and you're stuck. So I mean, you're looking at an intersection that's going to run you about $250,000, $275,000 update. So now you're going to set all the poles back, still have on their existing geometry, but you need turn lanes up there. So it's kind of at the time we looked at what can we do as an interim to try to build onto this, and over time as impact fees came in on the project to be able to apply to this, and there really wasn't an easy answer, because if you built the intersection back, you really weren't resolving the capacity issues up there, you were just replacing the signal, so it's kind of an all or nothing kind of plan almost. So again, that was what we did back in 2017 and 2018, and like I said, it's been on the shelf for a while, and it seems like as developments come in, This intersection always comes up as a topic, what can we do here? And again, impact fees for different projects are coming in, so this actually falls within 2 impact fee districts, so depending on which side of the line they are, those fees, and this is a major project in both of those service areas, so that's what we've done to date, and like I said, I would, questions you have on where we go from here, what we've done, I mean, that's kind of what I came for.
You said 275,000?
Well, that's just for the signal. If you start looking at all the roadway, I mean, at the end of the day, you're probably a $750,000 to $800,000 project, because you're gonna have some right of ways, you're gonna have utilities, I'm not sure what the underground utilities are. You're gonna have impacts to properties, legal fees, design fees, so at the end of the day, you're $750,000 to $800,000 for a project, so, going after some grant money, if it's an 80-20 mix, 20% of that is the township's responsibility, or something like that. And again, depending on what type of grant money you go after, there's other environmental, there's other strings that are attached to that money. There are some grants out there, well, there were grants out there with the current funding and situations, there's not many that are out there. The RV grant, I don't know if you've heard of that one, it's the automatic red light enforcement fund that from filling Pittsburgh, people run red lights, the money goes into a fund, and some of it goes back to the host municipalities, and the other goes into a big pot. And you can submit applications in the beginning of June, it's a 1-month period. And you can submit for that, it's basically a reimbursement, and they look for projects similar to this here. We did one actually last year, it's under construction this year in East Petersburg, if you know the main, Haynes Zugs were the squares, that intersection is a very old intersection. But it took 4 years to finally keep applying, to finally get money for that. And again, that's something very simple, where it's a reimbursement. You go out and you do the engineering design, and then you submit it, and you submit for reimbursement. So you don't have a lot of environmental type of processes you have to go through, and it's not a PennDOT-led project, so it's a local lead project, so the engineering fees are low. But again, you're competing with projects across the state as well as the county for these things, so it takes time, and for the most part, if you're not typically successful on these, it takes time. Again, every time you put an application there, it just takes time and energy to put those together, to submit, and you keep your fingers crossed that hope you come up with, to be successful on.
And these are both PennDOT roads, but
That's correct.
to get them to do anything?
Well, even with your impact fee, when you have state roads involved, it's 50% of that money is supposed to come from PennDOT towards the project, so you have to discount that from your cost of your improvements. So if it's a $400,000 project, 50% of that is supposed to come from PennDOT funds, which are never there, so that means the township or somebody has to make up the difference of those fees. So again, it's, when Act 209 was set up, good intentions, but boy, the mechanics to get to where they are, it's very cumbersome, and it's very, for the host municipality, it costs them a lot more money, because PennDOT's not at the table to put the money.
We should do something. What can we do that's financially responsible?
Well, you have a couple options, like, you can apply to get this project on the TIP program, which is, again, PennDOT's, is your word, Transportation Improvement Program. It's a 12-year program, so, you submit to the county, you get them to support the need for this improvement, but then it could take, 8+ years, you could get in the first 4 years where you get on, you can do the planning end of it, then it moves into design, then it moves into construction, so it's basically a 12-year period to put this type of project on. So a lot of the time, it becomes 100% funded and done by the department. So again, it's no cost mainly to the municipality, but it takes 12 years to do something. The next, if you take a step back and you go with some of these, like, I'll say like Green Light Go grants or other things, you're trying to successfully get money to come back. Those are probably, again, it's more money out on the municipality side of it, but again, the time frame is shorter. The RV is another option. Your impact fee funds, as you collect to use those, are just out of general fund. So the shortest time frame would be if you come from general fund and impact fees to finance a project. That would be the quickest time frame. But even a project like this, if you say, hey, we're catching loose, let's rock and roll this thing, you're probably at least 2 years, assuming the stars align, that you don't have issues with property owners getting right-of-ways, utilities that need relocated. You're probably 2.5 years from putting the shovel in the ground to start construction of a project like this.
lead time on that should be relatively 4 to 5 years if you're ready with the funds, right? When you add it up.
Even for a signal right now, I mean, signal poles are 26 weeks out. So it's a half a year, so if you have a permanent hand, you put up for construction, you know, you're not building the signal until the summer, so you're sitting there for at least a half year just waiting for materials to come in on the project, so it's, there is some lag period. Again, if you go with an ornamental pole, painted poles, I mean, it even has more time to it, so. But, you know, the biggest thing is right-of-ways, releases from property owners out here, you know, the extent of stormwater. Again, I threw a number of 750 to 800,000 out there, but, you know, until you get into the actual engineering, it's to determine underground utilities, what are you doing with stormwater? You have all ADA compliant items out there, ramps to build, so again, it becomes a pretty complex and expensive project.
Yeah, because just the Sunoco and the overlay you have here, there's a lot that has to get purchased on that right away.
Well, we, actually, as part of our analysis, we did two scenarios. We did one with and without that right turn lane, southbound right turn lane, just to show what the impact are, because we knew that's a major impact of that property. You know, so again, if you don't do that right turn lane, you know, well, here's the impacts, or, you know, you're gonna build 90% of the intersection, you don't get the full effect of it. That's a pretty heavy movement coming down that right turn. So you sacrifice that versus the cost and the impacts to the gas station. I mean, that's, and again, you can only go so far to the north because you have another property to deal with, so it's, you know, you're kind of squeezing in what you can within the limits of properties and trying to minimize those impacts. You know, the other thing, and I don't know if you were looking into it, is, you know, 272 out there, if it's concrete underneath there. Again, it's concrete, that roadway itself is probably 24 foot of concrete. So all the widening out there, anything with widening out there has to be done in concrete. And then there's overlay, so you can't, it's not like the blacktop road where you just widen the blacktop. You're going to go full width of concrete, so again, these costs just keep, you know, adding on. You could ask for some relief to go that way, but, you know, depending on the age of the concrete, you might be able to get some relief on that from PennDOT, but most likely you're gonna replace it with, you know, 10-inch concrete out there.
So they had to put concrete up there at house.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say to you. That was, you know, so there's a prime example of what you had to do. And that wasn't a very large widening either, that was.
And John, if I look at this right from the DiMaggio property, Tony, that cuts into their entire front row of parking. Correct. If you do this type of expansion, they literally lose that whole front row. They're tight for parking in there already. As it is, yeah.
Plus, as well as their access, I mean, driveways, I mean, everything has to conform to PennDOT criteria. You know, you want to keep driveways as far away from the intersection as possible.
Yeah.
You may end up limiting some of those driveways to an exit only, an enter only, and, you know, again, that just, you know, complicates the process, get people to sign off to agree to a project when you're going in and saying, well, we're gonna, you know, take parking or restrict your access, so that's, you know, there's no easy ones left out there. And again, this is not an easy one. And, you know, to spend that kind of money to get the final product, you know, if you go out and just update the signal, you're really not doing anything out there because it's really a capacity issue and lack of lanes, turn lanes out there. And you guys are well worked out.
It's been that way for years.
You always tear it out, put a roundabout in there.
Oh, gee.
I mean, you're looking for solutions, but, I mean, that's, I mean, when you
I
go
want to
through,
know what plans to,
But when you
white
go-
paper roundabouts.
but when you go through PennDOT for financing some of these grant applications, they have a process called the ICE process. It's the intersection control evaluation. And it's a pretty complex process, and they make you do benefit cost analysis of every possible. And the roundabout is one of the scenarios you have to go through. So again, it's, you know, a lot of people don't like them, you don't like to hear about them, but, you know, a lot of times at the end of the day, they become, it's a long-term, you know, we're looking at 30 years of maintenance costs and everything else you have going with it. It becomes a you know, benefit cost ratio is much better to look at than, you know, saying, let's put a signal on.
I guess when you talk about roundabouts, they're more area than what an intersection is, basically, right? Or-
Yeah, I think for this one it would, because you'd probably have a multi-lane type. If you were in more of a rural area where you had balance of traffic and the movements, it would be a single lane. I think here, with the right turn, you would see probably a 2-lane coming south and make that right, and even but coming north, you'd have some, so it's gonna be a bigger footprint, and, you know, might be something where you would shift it to the south possibly, you know, and you try to offset the angles to get them to actually deflect traffic to slow them down. That's part of the effect of those, to slow people coming into the roundabout. So again, those are the types of things that go into that analysis. In the end of the day, you know, you may start off and say it's just not feasible because of regulators and just what you need out there. But again, as you go through and you start getting grant monies, these are the kind of steps you need to go through in analyses to prove that the state is spending their money in the best possible manner.
And a roundabout in here would have to be larger because they'd have to come, the
Trucks.
53 footers. Is the one they put up on 222. That's pretty tight up there in Berks County.
Right.
They barely can get a 53 footer around there without it coming halfway over the lane.
Well, again, the idea of those is to keep a narrow lane, you keep an apron on the roundabout for the back wheels to kind of knock on there, because you want it to be tight to go through. You want people to go slow through there, so traffic coming in from all approaches can enter into it. You don't want people, we do what's called a fast track analysis through. So as we run our truck templates through there, you gotta make it so that they simulate that they do go slow. And again, they are designed such that the back wheels can jump up onto those aprons to keep it tight, because if you have somebody doing a fast track, you've probably seen some of the videos of people going right through them. And again, for emergency vehicles, you know, it has to be designed such that they can get through. But yeah, that's, you know, it depends on the driver too. I mean, there's good drivers, there's bad drivers. They come in and they take signs up. I'm working on a few up in Luzerne County right now. And they just opened the road about a year and a half ago, and I'd say half the signs already ripped down. It's a big warehouse area there, and trucks come in there, and you know, you just take out the signs. So it's a constant update of, and the host municipality is the one that has to replace the signs. So, you know, they've been replacing signs like every couple of weeks. They're out there putting signs up, you know, directing traffic around them. So, you know, when they say maintenance issue, is it's less maintenance, but you know, you see some of these here, and I mean, you have enough of your intersections now. You see that signs get knocked down, just trying to maintain them.
When you talk about those different grant programs there, does PennDOT or whomever put priorities on certain jobs that, on the applications, or saying that there's a higher need for it in one place versus another when you look at the style, the stack of applications for grants? Or
I'll give you two opinions on that. The first one is your application, basically, because you're supporting with crash data, volume, location. I mean, there's the basic elements that go into the application. The second I'm going to say, which I'm not going to say, is political. You know, where you are and how the money gets allocated. You know, it was last year, or it was 2 years ago actually, East Lampeter was the only one that got any money in the whole Lancaster County. And there was 33 applications that came in. So they got the money for the pedestrian improvements they're doing out there now. So again, pedestrian activity on 30 is important, but again, there was a lot of other candidate projects on there. I went through the list, and I know we submitted on some. It's like, you know, they're all good, strong candidates of, you know, we've got high crashes. You know, they're not real excited about giving money out on capacity-related type improvements, because they figure they want to, you know, they're looking at safety. If there's capacity issues, they want, you know, the municipality or developments to take care of adding those. They don't want to put money into building more roads that they have to maintain. So if there's safety issues, pedestrian activity, schools, I mean, those types of activity, if you're taking traffic off the road with, you know, public transit and different things like that, they really look at those pretty hard. But then again, it does come down to, if there's projects here, they're going to look, you know, elsewhere, who some of the players are. I hate to say that, but it really is. When you look at projects that had much higher crash rates, that, you know, could have been better candidate projects, and they weren't selected, you know.
How much money are those grants available then?
I mean, it's tough this year. From what I'm hearing from PennDOT, from different seminars I sat in, money's really tight because, again, they're not getting gas tax. A lot of this money comes in, so again, there's money not coming in to put in for these grant funds. They're just trying to kind of maintain infrastructure they have now. The bridges are still working on a lot of bridges, roadways, so a lot of the money isn't coming free enough for the grants. I'm not sure if they're going to have another green light go next year. I think the Army will. The Army still went this year. It's about a 1 month period. They advertise a notification usually in May. There's a 1 month period between June and July to get your application in there. And that's a pretty simple application. And once you do one application for a project, if it gets rejected, you're kind of regurgitating and just, you know, updating it for the next year to submit. So those your efforts put in the first year, and then you can keep resubmitting. Sometimes you just, like in East Petersburg, it took 5 times. You know, until it finally came through approval, and that's the intersection of 72 with auction traffic, you know, quarry trucks, people come from 283, so again, it's a crossroads of two major SRs, two-lane road that you really can't do much in, so it took, a lot of ear beating and, talking to the right people to get things going, but it finally came through.
Okay. Yeah, well, I guess from my perspective, with the additional development coming in, traffic counts aren't going to be going down. In years to come, they're not going to be going up with most all these major intersections. I think it's time we need to at least put it in the thought process here. So,
I think this has been deficient for years, hasn't it, Doug?
yeah.
You know, I'm sitting listening to this, and I hate to bring it up, I really do, because I'm probably get thrown out of the building. If you were to keep the maximum radius, in other words, at the pizza shop and the Sunoco, move them south to their original thing, and widen the road on the two vacant corners. And, it's part of the, as John said, the state already knows it's deficient. It's their roads, they ain't gonna fix it, they're gonna look for help, they want this township or any township to pay the bills. Part of getting that land, and I hate to say eminent domain, but, for safety issues, I think that would be an easier sell to the state or something than anything else. Acquire more land on those two vacant things, because the other restrictor, when you head into Reevestown, is that bridge at the fire company. That's gonna be a throttle, chicane, whatever you wanna call it, because now you're gonna go from 3 lanes down to 2, and how's that gonna work? That's part of the issue there. So, I can't ever see, there's a couple intersections in this township which you really can't improve, and the one is 272 and 897, because of that historic building. We've tried to get that thing moved for years and years and years, or do something around it, and we've maxed that intersection out as far as width goes. There's nothing more to be done there. There really isn't. And that's how I look at this thing. I don't know, short of putting the radiuses back down where they are now and expanding them on the south side, it's gonna be realignment, but, set some money aside and buy the land. I don't know what else to say, because the state, the township can go to the state all they want, but they're not gonna budge on this thing. I just don't see them spending the money on it.
I agree, Doug.
Yep.
Traffic impact fees, can we use the money for this intersection, or can't we?
Sure.
All of it?
I don't know what percentage, but that's what part of it's for.
Or it's for, okay.
Right, yeah, the project is, this intersection is listed in the capital improvement plan, it is impact fee eligible. Now, there's certain components of it that, there's existing deficiencies, pass-through deficiencies, and then development deficiencies.
That's what I was meaning, yeah.
Right, so anything you would do here, again, that portion of existing, pass-through, those things would be the responsibility of the township / PennDOT, and then you can apply the impact fee dollars towards the cost of it also.
I think it was the turn lanes on Church Street,
I think we're-
one on each side, were the two projects,
Correct.
two different zones. But like you said, those fees, that could be used as a match for other levels, other opportunities too.
And maybe it makes sense to, talk to the county and get this onto the tip. At least it starts the process and you can get through there, and, as things go through, maybe there's, there could be a local lead project where you take the lead on the design of it, and then they take the construction, so there's other avenues possibly that you go through, but at least maybe have it be supported by the county to get it on the tip to start that process, because 12 years sounds like a long time, but again, if you're talking 6 or 8 years doing it on your own, another 4 years, and it doesn't cost you anything, or your contribution is your impact fees and some local type leads where, they take care of utilities or right-of-ways. I mean, there's a lot more strings, a lot more cost when they do the project. If PennDOT come into this project, it's probably $1.5 million project, if not more, versus $800,000 you do it. So you just double the cost using what PennDOT does all the environmentals and what they need to go through for right-of-way clearances and everything. But again, at least gets it on the radar and possibly, moves it forward. It's not a fast process, but it's an option out there.
What would it cost to get it on the TIF then for us?
I think you
Just
have
rough.
I mean, it's the meetings with the county discussing, transportation needs. I mean, you've done impact fees, you kind of have done the planning for what needs done here. So you have a lot of the upfront legwork. It's talking to them to find out when the cycle comes around. And I think the cycle already ran out for next year. I just saw in the TTAC meeting that they were adjusting budgets and getting things on the tip. So you probably have to talk to Bob Indy down there to find out, when we can submit something. They always send an email out, I believe, and you probably get the emails of, hey, if you have a project or you want to submit something, you can submit it, and, they can discuss it at the TTAC meetings. And
Should start doing something.
Yeah, I don't think you can ignore it forever.
So even if you're shooting for to get it on the tip, you can still apply for grants and early grants in
Oh,
the
sure.
meantime, and, if one of those would come through beforehand.
correct, and if, it works out well, if they start planning the tip for engineering of it, and then, for design and then construction, if it falls off and they don't spend the money, then it goes back in the pot for other projects, but at least you kind of have something earmarked for it, you can kind of at least establish a schedule when something could be done out there.
So if you would get this on the tip and you would strive for that, is there ever, I don't really know the answer to this probably, there's never an incident where the state reimburses the township for fixing their road? Grading their road?
So, Penny,
Thought I'd throw that out there, I know.
it's hard enough to get them to come out to fix a pothole or a sinkhole or a sign that's not done, give you money back.
Deer. All
I
right.
mean, that argument is, when there are two state roads, everyone's in the same position, it's like, they're not our roads, we understand we own the signal, we have to maintain that, but, these are the roads, and
Well, right, so they should, reimburse the town.
they don't wanna maintain stormwater, they put all that back on the municipalities, now, so you see everything, how it's just coming ultimately back to the municipality to maintain it.
Think all the signals and everything else.
Well, I think you should at least start down somehow, because this.
Yeah, that can be, we got it. Huh? Yes, June.
If you're coming from Denver on Church Street, why is the not the lane closest to the field, the next lane, why is that a turn and a straight lane? Wouldn't the traffic flow better if the turn lane was also a straight lane?
Due to the traffic, the way the volumes are set up, there is a high volume of right turns. And the alignment in the intersection it has more capacity. I know if you have somebody that's turning left and they can't make it across because there's not a gap for them, but capacity wise, and I did bring the numbers on here, see what they are.
Because that traffic backs up quite a ways
Yeah.
back, because people are waiting for people to make a left turn, and you're sitting there, you want to go straight. So a lot of people go around it anyway, and they go into the right-hand turn lane and go straight.
I've had people sit in the right turn lane and cut off the person in the center lane,
Uh-huh.
going straight ahead.
And again, with the alignment too, the way the alignment is.
That's what
it
the
was
problem
aligned
is,
to
the
the south,
alignment
so-
of the street.
Yeah, again, it's keeping that through, so when the right turn lane is added, it really, because you don't have an opposing left turn, and that's why with the plan, you're showing two opposing left turns, a through and then a right turn, that they go further south along the road.
But wouldn't the traffic flow better if there was just a left-hand turn lane, not a straight and left-hand turn lane?
It would, but you would have to build on the opposing side where you're receiving the traffic, the through movement, you would have to build a 12-foot lane south of that to receive it because of the offset. PennDOT's not gonna allow you to let that traffic the way it does now, jockeys around, does that swerve.
Yeah.
They want that to line straight across, so you'd be basically building a left turn lane on the other side. So that's kind of what we look at, can we just build left turn lanes on the side streets based on what the impact fee was? And, you start spiraling, okay, we look at curb and ADA, we don't build the whole intersection, we have to come back, tear it out, and rebuild it. Now we're dealing with stormwater, so we build half of it, so, you almost have to do everything or nothing, because if you start incrementally putting pieces together, at some point, you're tearing things out potentially. So if you build the radiuses, everything back to ultimately accommodate the turn lanes, and you have, everything set back to the forward, but the roadway's up here, so, you don't want to build something and then come back in 5 years and tear it out and put another lane in, so that's why I say it's kind of an all or nothing thing, and unfortunately, it's an all or nothing thing.
And then the same thing holds true if you're on 272 going north. many, many people make the right-hand turn from the shoulder. Why isn't there a turn lane there? The road isn't wide enough?
Well, that's again, the widening of that, and I know people who use the shoulder, it would have to be wide, concrete, you know, if you went in for PennDOT or HOP to do that, they would make you do the full widening. That radius, and again, there's even some right of way that's required, and that was, again, you can't use the shoulder. You know, you could technically put signs up there and say no turns from shoulder, I mean, but again, sort of chief knows it, signs are about as good as, you know, they just don't work. You can put all the signs in the world up there, and no one's gonna follow them, but nobody wants to sit there and wait.
We tried for years to get the state to stripe that right,
Yeah,
and they wouldn't even come out and supply the paint to do it, for whatever reason. I don't know if you were involved in that or not, John.
For a right turn lane or
Yeah,
just for?
they're coming north on 272 to turn onto Church Street, that extra lane that they don't want them to use. Well, then put stripes on it, like they do out on Shannick Road. They have that lane striped, so you're going south on 272, you're not supposed to be able to get in that far right lane to turn onto Shannick Road. And the state put striping on there to keep you out of there.
No, that was our project, we did that for Cocalico Township, and that was ultimately, that's a two-stager there, because ultimately, Shannick's gonna be wide for turn lanes. So that was kind of the same thing, it was gonna go in the intersection, set the curves back as, you know, possibility, and then for the future widening, because again, there just wasn't enough money in the pot to build a whole intersection. So everything was set back, and there was all that pavement out there, so you had to put that striping in there to keep people from using it, but, you know, what they're doing, they use the.
They use it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the township manager and the traffic engineer to proceed in the necessary steps to get with the county and get us on the tip
On
plan.
the tip and any grants. Okay.
Well, let me, before, I agree with that, but let me ask this before we do that, like, based on what Doug's comments are, I'm sitting here looking at these drawings. I think it's gonna be extremely expensive to purchase those right-of-ways for the pizza and Sunoco. And I'm counting, I was counting the parking spaces here, they're gonna literally lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces.
yeah,
And,
and the driveways, I mean, they're gonna.
yeah, and when I look at the setbacks, because your scale is 1 inch to 25 feet, so roughly, if they realign those, Tony, the back spot is gonna be within 3.5 feet of the front door.
Yeah. I mean, you end up putting diagonal parking or something you created, but again, does that create a zoning issue for that parcel?
Yeah.
That,
Well, you have to.
you know, they don't.
So-
Then you do nothing?
No, so do you guys do a concept plan, concept drawings, just an overview concept drawings for shifting that intersection
To the south?
to the south and taking the two, where the two empty fields are right now, just conceptually, just so we look at that.
Before we even start talking with the county and try to get it on the tip?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's shifting everything to the south in terms of, again, it's shifting that now is gonna push some of the improvements on Church for the back, we're gonna have to transition in, so it's gonna expand the project east and west, but again, it's gonna minimize, if you look at the impacts,
yeah.
You've got more room to play with there.
yeah, this
On
was
Church
done,
Street and on 272 at that point.
yeah, this was done basically to keep in line with what the center lines and what you are, again, minimizing right of way takes, but like you said, that, you know, PennDOT could come in and say that whole corner is a take, and they would take the entire property. So
Yeah,
again,
well,
then if you take the entire property, then you value the business, the property, I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can see how it just, you know, it just keeps adding up, so then they end up, the state ends up having a piece of property out here, and then they try to sell it, but who do they sell it to, because you'll never get good access until you're right at the intersection, so it becomes really a, you know, it's a great corner, but it's a bad corner, because, you know, you got good traffic, and think for commercial, but how do you access a site like that? And again, I think, you know, with Brent, some of the other, you know, concepts that the township's trying to do, backside access, you know, access management on these roads, to provide alternative access off of these main streets. But again, you're really limited on what you can do that intersection.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tight.
Are you guys okay with that?
That piece of land road on the Denver side, on the south side, wasn't that just sold? Didn't somebody come in here for a little strip out front?
A long strip, that was owned by Greth, Walter Greth for many, many years. I'm not quite sure if it was sold.
I think it was.
Okay.
And I thought someone came in asking for a variance for something on that. I'll check and see if it was just sold.
Nothing comes to mind.
I was sure I heard something on that.
And last I heard was when it was proposed for development, but that was probably 10 years ago.
No, this was just,
More recently,
yeah.
Where the ATM used to be?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
It's a long arrow piece that goes all the way down to the entrance of.
If it wasn't sold, you ought to buy it now,
Yeah.
while you can. At least you got the corner.
So you guys okay with doing that?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Next time, we'll come back and we can talk about some more.
Okay.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to read this proclamation, East Cocalico School Choice Week. Whereas all children in East Cocalico should have access to high-quality education as possible, and whereas East Cocalico recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in the preparing all students in East Cocalico to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of East Cocalico, and whereas East Cocalico is home to a multitude of high-quality public and non-public schools for which the parents can choose for their children. In addition, the families who educate their children at home, and whereas education variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrance of our community, and whereas East Cocalico has a high-quality teaching professionals in all types of schools settings who are committed to the education of our children, and whereas the School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need of effective education options. Now therefore, I, Alan Fry, do hereby recognize January 24th through 30th, 2021 as East Cocalico School Choice Week, and I call this observance to the attention of all our citizens. Okay, thank you. End of year advertisements. It's getting to that time already. The motion to be to approve the advertisement of all year-end obligations as they are prepared and approved by either the Board of Supervisors or the Township Manager. Advertisements to include but not limited to the 2021 appointment of a CPA auditing firm, and the 2021 meeting dates, and the 2021 draft budget, sorry. That's a motion.
I'll second it. I'll make it.
You're gonna make it?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next thing on the agenda is communications, contract for next year. Farlow Communication, motion to execute and sign the Farlow Communication 2021 phone system maintenance agreement at a base cost of $2,161.
And that's up $251 over last year.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is CM High repair and preventive maintenance. Motions to approve the first day of a new tone. Execution of the CM High preventative maintenance repair estimate as deemed necessary under the direction of our roadmaster and traffic engineer consultant John Schick